Good morning, and it's on. Yep. Thank you for your welcome. We feel most welcome from when we first came in. Everybody has thanked us and welcomed us here, so we feel very welcome. It is a welcoming church. We are grateful. I realise that this is kind of a what do you call it? Interruption to your ongoing affairs. Why should I be here? Who's this guy coming in to talk about something? Well, let me put it in context. Barbara and I are both South Australians. We were born here and brought up here, educated here, university and so on. Both went to school. We're both trained as school teachers, which is perhaps appropriate for education. I went into the pastoral ministry. Barbara kept on teaching. We haven't lived in Adelaide since 1977. I was pastoring at West Beach, just down the road, 74 to 76. And I think the last time I was in this church was probably one of those years when a fellow from America came out to talk about groups in churches, a man by the name of Findlay Edge, who wrote a book called The Greening of the Church. And back those days, I was just a young pastor and looking for anything that I could find to help me in the church at West Beach. So we had a seminar here right at Grange Church. That's the last time I was here. I didn't realise I was going to be here 40-odd years later, but there we are. So we left from West Beach to go to Zambia, actually, with missionaries. As missionaries, they called them missionaries then, with ABMS. That's another story altogether. That last 40-odd years or so, 45, 46, whatever it is now, since then, is another story. But why I'm here is because we're still involved in the work, and I was here to talk to Ross Fairbank, because he's coming to Africa with me and Barbara and other groups in April, and I was going to come and put him into context of what it's all about, and he said, can you come and share with the church? So my main purpose is, I guess, to help you to understand what he's coming in, what he's let himself in for, and that you can help him in the support. But then they asked me to preach as well, so you strap yourselves in for another hour and we'll be fine. But I realise you've been going an hour and you think, gee, he's going to start preaching now. Wow. I'm an educator, so I'll keep it short. I'm also a preacher, so, I don't know when to stop. Is it? Oh, yeah, that's right. We've got to go to the hotel for lunch. I'm sure they'll keep it for a quarter of an hour. I called this striving side by side. Just by introduction, a few years ago when I was younger and fitter, I bought a boat for some reason, a yacht. And it was moored in the Hawkesbury River. We lived in Sydney since we came back from Africa in '86. So I had this boat. And I learned a lot of things with that boat, not least of which the power of tides, because it's a tidal river. And on one occasion, we was out there with my son-in-law and some other members of the family too, but we were the two that were left. It was moored, so you had to get to the thing with a tinny, a rowboat. And we were out there doing something on the boat, and it was time to come back. We were about, several hundred metres downstream from where the car was, where we had to pick out the tinny and get home. So we get into this tinny, and I hadn't realised that the tide was going out. And so we started to row. He was on one side, my son-in-law was on one, and I was on the other. And we were rowing, and we suddenly realised that we were actually going the wrong way. The tide was so strong, it was heading us out into the Hawkesbury, and we finished up out in the ocean somewhere. And I started to panic. I said, hey, what are we going to do, mate? And then suddenly I don't know if it was he or me, the physics sort of came into it and said, well, wait a minute, let's get across to the side, because it's supposed to be a lot less powerful there. So here we go, we're sort of going across, he on one and I on the other, trying to synchronise ourselves. And we get across there, and fortunately, it was a lot less at those stage. But man, it was powerful. That tide, it's just a tide. It was just incredible. And eventually we found our way back. Striving side by side. It's a bit like that in ministry. And I think it sort of affects us in a number of ways. And I hope that as I do this talk today, you'll understand that. In education, in ministry, and with Ross, he wants people to be striving side by side as well. The verse that I'm sort of fitting this on is where I got this from, is from Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 1. And this is what he says: whatever happens, conduct yourselves worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. Paul was not an isolationist. He worked with teams. He worked with others. Someone has sort of done a bit of research and said that there were about 38 people. Oh, I need my glasses. Trying to read numbers. 38 people were associated with Paul in his ministry through the book of Acts. About a fifth of them were women, and they were entitled as all sorts of different people: co-workers, fellow workers, etc. We know some of what they did, but we don't know everything. All we do know is that he didn't work alone, he worked with others. And so when he talks about striving together as one for the faith, he really meant that. Of course, when he wrote this, he was in prison. And if you see the context in chapter 1 of the Philippians, he feels the Philippians were in sort of strife as well with great challenges, because he talks to them about how they might be in trouble and the struggles that they have. Striving together for the faith. That was Paul, God's ministry with him. So what I want to do this morning is to simply go back and explain the context of what we've been doing over 40 years now. 1977 we first went. We haven't been back. We've been home since 86, but I go back all the time still. Ministry, striving together for ministry. I want to share 3 examples, and I'm going to do it quickly because time's away and I want to get to lunch, 12 o'clock. We went to Zambia in 1977. I was involved in theological education, and Barbara was also involved in that, but because I wanted to study, she had to become involved in education. She was a school teacher. She taught at teachers' colleges in Zambia and in South Africa so that I could finish my doctorate. So we're involved in education. Mine was in theological education, and we started doing things differently when I came back. I was in a residential theological college when we were living there, now become a university. But since we've come back, we've been involved in different type of ministry in that theological education. Let me explain. This is the background. Can you read that? Oh, I suppose you can. Maybe not. I'll have to read it for you. What we do, and this is a backdrop, and then I just give the examples quickly. What we do, it came as a colleague of Zambia back nearly over 25 years ago. The rural churches in Zambia have no pastors. In fact, would you believe that over 90% of pastors and leaders around the world have had no formal recognised theological education? Nearly over 90%. I've read somewhere that in America there's one pastor for every 450 people. In the rest of the world, it's one for every 250,000. And why are we involved in this? Because the rural churches, our mission was involved in church planting in Zambia many years ago. Easy to plant churches, not so easy to maintain them, especially when you don't have leaders. So what we did was we started at the grassroots and we said, let's take some people. Well, he did. This is my Zambian counterpart. He started it. I just came alongside, striving with him for that last number of years. He started off doing it, getting groups of people from the churches, bringing them together, intensive giving them very basic teaching of the scriptures and of the Christian faith. And then they go back into their churches to preach, because there was no one else there to teach or preach. In some churches, they rotate the leadership every year because one person runs out of what to give after a first year. They have nothing else to give. So someone else has got to do it. So what we did was to get them together, give some sort of basic training so that they could then build that into their church. Then it came along and said, well, okay, we've done that, but who's going to teach them? So what we did was to take out some of the best ones from that first group and say, let's train them as teachers so that they can be the ones to teach their own people, not us. So that's where the TOT came involved. So that's grown over the years. It's still going very strong. It's going in 4 different areas, 3 in Zambia and 1 in Zimbabwe, where we train them, we bring them on. It's a 3-year program. They'll come in for intensives. They have a curriculum, and by the end of the 3 years, hopefully, they have enough skills to be able to look at a resource, whatever it might be, and to put together a sermon or a lesson on some subject so they can go back into their churches and teach it and preach it. That's one thing we're doing. Then along came a thing called Reformer about 6-7 years ago, worldwide, international, from the World Evangelical Alliance. And this is what they came up with when they realised that so many people in churches around the world have not had the opportunity to do any sort of training. They said, well, let's start at the ground level. Let's say, if you wanted a good leader, what would you require of that person? I'd be interested to know if I asked you, what would you expect of Mark as a good pastor, a good teacher? If you started off from nothing, what would you expect of him? Well, they came up with 35 different things, outcomes, 35 of them. And they're all sort of basically practical action things that they can demonstrate. And so this World Evangelical Alliance said, if you can get people in groups to prove that they can demonstrate those outcomes, we will give them an internationally recognised certificate throughout the evangelical world that they are equipped for pastoring and for leading. Oh, here we. So it's called Reformer. It's not a Baptist thing. It's a interdenominational. It's an evangelical, World Evangelical Alliance program. So what it does is you get groups of people, you get one person, a facilitator, and he works with the people in the group to say, how can I help you demonstrate these outcomes? So what I did was to put together we put 12 subjects. There's 35 outcomes. We put them into 12 subjects and we teach those outcomes alongside of the TOT program. And that's what Ross is going to do when he comes in April. He's going to teach 2 of those Reformer subjects to the team. And this is where Project Timothy comes in. We sort of said, well, how are we going to do all this? We can't work this. It just took off because people realised that there were people who just were so desperate to learn, to be leaders, to be pastors. But they had no opportunity to go to a Bible college or a residential program. But they were urging for it. So this is where the need was being met. So we had pastors. I went out. There were others that were there locally, of course, that helped. It's not just mine. It's just the Baptist Mission Australia is helping. And so we got people from Australia. So up till now, there's been about 21 different people that have come in this program over 13, 14 years. And they come and they do some teaching. And that helps to develop it. So Ross is coming on as one of those Project Timothy people. One of the subjects that we have set down in the syllabus for TOT is the principles and practice of teaching, obviously. If you're going to teach somebody, you need to know how to do it, what to do it. And this is where the education comes in. And so one of the first things we do in that subject is to say, well, what is education? What are you on about here? And so I've got it there. The first one, the real purpose of education is to learn to live, believe and use knowledge in effective and Christ-like, I can read it from there, Christ-glorifying ways. That's one thing. We say education is more than schooling. Going to school is not education. I see that people start to think about that. Education is more about how to behave rather than how to think. So what we say is, yes, you've got to have some skills, obviously, but you know that you as a person are going to have more impact as a teacher, as a person, than you will through the material that you actually give in class. So that's one of the things that we talk about. It puts a lot of responsibility, of course, on those who are teachers, because it's pretty scary to think, I can tell them things, I can give them skills, I can give them all sorts of information, but what they're going to actually learn is more about who I am than what I'm giving them. Now, if you don't believe me, go to students and ask. As I said, Barbara, my wife, has been a school teacher for nearly 60 years. 1966 you started, didn't you, at high school here in Enfield? However many years that is, 58. She just finished off at the end of 2022, 35 years at the school just down the road from us. Yes, she was 78 when she finished. And that had a big thing at the end. These are some of the responses that they had a big thing from the students and from the teachers. Just let me couple things. Well, this is one of the students. Annalise said this about, "You have inspired and encouraged me since I first moved to this school, and your kindness has been abundant." Nothing about, oh yes, I can tick off all those ingredients from the recipe, you can do it all well. Nothing about the content of what she taught, it was about the person. One of the teachers said to her, "I want to thank you for the incredible blessing you've been to me over the many years." That's the kind of response that you get as teachers. That's because you have the impact as a teacher. And I know that as the teachers here and the students, you will learn a lot about living. You will learn a lot about how to behave, how to interact, not so much from the material that you get, but from the people who are teaching. So, striving together in Africa, very, very quickly. This is striving together. I sort of thinking this is Baptist Mission Australia, and I'm a representative of Baptist Mission Australia, still work for them, in Africa. Yes, Africa. You recognise Africa? Yeah. You recognise Zambia? You may not. Now, let me point out a couple of places here. Oh, there's no pointer on this, is there? Anyway, if you can see Lusaka here, my alarm's not big enough. You can see Lusaka. Well, if you head north, there's a place called Kabwe. That's where Ross is going to be. That's where he's going to teach. That's one of the three places we have teaching TOT and Reformer in Zambia. He's going to be working with the Kabwe Bible Institute. Kabwe Bible Institute is the guy that I said helped set this up. He now works in Kabwe. That's the classrooms that we were. There's more than just that on the institute, but they're the classrooms. Incidentally, those classrooms, two of them, were built in 2 weeks with a group from my church, Springwood, in New South Wales, about 2014. We put that up in 2 weeks. That's the classroom he's going to be teaching. There's Boston Wavela, who is the guy I talked about who started all this. He's now in Kabwe. I've worked with him for over 25 years. He sort of helped set up the TOT, and then I introduced the Reformer. That's the class that Ross is going to be teaching. I won't be in the class, and nor will the other guy there, Rod McCready. He's a Project Timothy person. But that's the class, and that's the classroom behind that he's going to be teaching. So in the Kabwe, it's the fourth group we've had for TOT. There's 15 in the Reformer group, so after 3 years, 15 of those people will be able to get certificates from World Evangelical Alliance saying that they are equipped to teach and to be a preacher and a leader in a church. And Ross is teaching 2 Reformer subjects. It's not September, it's April. Yeah, got that wrong. So that's the first one. Second, striving, Baptist Mission Australia and the Central Baptist Association of Zambia. If you could check that map again, which I haven't got, but if you went up further from Kabwe, you'd come to a place called Kapiri. And Kapiri is a growing area, and there's a Central Baptist Association working there. They have about 35, 40 churches. We have a TOT class there of about 15. We have they're all doing Reformer as well, but then there's some extras doing Reformer that are not doing TOT. And one of those classes is, they've also decided, because of the church and because of the area, they want to involve youth and unemployed. So they've got a skills training program going. Barbara taught sewing there last year to 35 women in one classroom with the old Singer machines, hand Singer machines. She did that with 35 of them, and they went home with dresses and whatever. Amazing. So they've got an institute. I don't know why they called it Roger Kemp Institute, but anyway, they did. We'll pass over that. But this is the institute. The mission, well, that's actually the class in their classwork, and that's the institute, or part of it. The mission got involved. Scott Pilgrim, our new director, 2 years ago visited Zambia, and he said, this is a great project. And so the CBAZ have got this project. It's the RK Institute, skills training. If you're a carpenter, plumber, mechanic, electrician, an IT person, or a school teacher, and you want to spend a month of your long service leave, or even a bit more, and you want to come to teach at the RK Institute, you're most welcome. We're looking for those sorts of people to come and help. It's only just been built. It was built last year, and the first classes are starting next week. But you can come at any time, and that's where we're going to be as well, doing TOT and Reformer. But the skills training program is a separate thing run by CBAZ, and the mission have got involved. They put in $140,000 for that building, and it's there, and it's going to be starting up in the next week or two. So the ministry, that's just telling you what sort of things they are going to be doing. So practical. You've got to have some qualification, because even there in Zambia, if you're going to do any teaching, you need to have some qualification to show that you can do that. But I'm sure there are many of you who've done that, even the retired people. I'm retired, but I still go. And the last one is the Baptist Mission of Australia and Baptist Union of Zimbabwe. During COVID in Zimbabwe, there's Zimbabwe, it's just below Zambia. That's Zimbabwe. You might have heard a lot about Zimbabwe. During COVID, the rural churches basically disappeared. Coming back after COVID, they cannot. They're having struggles coming back to it. So what they've decided to do in the next little while is to concentrate on training their rural pastors, their rural churches. And they've got many of them spread around Zimbabwe. And they've decided that they're going to use the Reformer program to do that. And so the Reformer as the training platform for the rural pastors, they've got 6 groups. We were there last year, and there are 6 groups working in different areas of Zimbabwe. Each of those groups will have about, maybe 10, 15 people, and each of those 10 or 15 people will be working on those outcomes, 35 outcomes. And the leader, the facilitator, will help them do that. So that after 2 or 3 years, there'll be a number of people, maybe up to 80, 60 or 70, who will have done that Reformer program. And that will be that's their training program. We're meeting in April with that group, and we're going to see how they are developing. So that's a new initiative by the Baptist Mission Australia with the Baptist Union of Zimbabwe. And there's the group. They're the people who are the facilitators that we met last year, spread around Zimbabwe. That's basically it. That gives you the context, and I've been involved, many, many years, and it just excites me every time I go to see the urgency, the desire of these people, men and women, to be trained, to be able to do something, able to give back to something and people in their own communities, their own churches. And, John Stott, I think, was saying that the church in Africa is hundreds of miles wide, but about 1.5 inches thick. And that's about it. Wide, you can become a Christian, you can become a church planter anywhere pretty quickly, But going down, digging down, drilling into the scriptures, what is God speaking to us about? That's another story. And that's where TOT and Reformer have come involved, and it's great to have Ross on board. So I want to finish there, but Ross wants to come up and have a little word, and then I want to pray with him before we finish our last song. Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, just real quick, and not wanting to take the shine off anything, I'm just going to be looking for a prayer support team. So over the next couple of weeks, if you want to join with me in prayer support for what I'm going to be doing over there starting on April 20th,
Yep.
for 2 weeks, just come and let me know and we'll sign you up. And you can be praying and supporting me while I'm over there. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, he's going to need prayer because it's a new context. You have a bit of culture shock. Things are not like here. Things are a bit different. You don't get everything that you want. You might get hot water. You might get water. For meals, you've got to grab your own where you can. I don't want to put him off, but, you know, Barbara and I will be there to be supportive. We've done it for many years, so it's fine. But, yeah, he will need support, and it's just tiring. Speaking, although they understand English, but their English is not as good as yours. That's their second, third, fourth, fifth language. So for them, they've got to struggle to hear and understand. So it's very wearing, very tiring on a teacher when you're teaching those kinds of students to make sure they understand. You know, it's back and forth. Do you understand? You see blank faces and you think, what on earth are they listening to? Don't know. You've got to work it out. So yes, he's going to need prayer. So let me pray, and then I think we've got a song. Father, we're grateful for your word and for your scriptures that we can dig into, that we can find about. We thank you for people like Mark and others who can show us the way, who can help us to understand your word to us each day, each week. And we pray for those churches in Zambia and other places. We know there are believers in places like Cambodia that I know this church is involved with as well, where they just don't have the people to be able to share the deeper parts of the scriptures to help them grow and to mature into people that they want to be and that you want them to be. And so we just are grateful that the Baptist Mission Australia is involved in so many of these programs, and for the people involved too. And as we think about this, we think of Ross and what he's going to be doing in just a few months' time. And we ask your blessing upon him as he prepares for that, and that there will be those here who will continue to support him now, before he goes, and especially while he is there. And that this impact will be a wonderful time for the people that are there listening. So put your hand upon us, we pray, and upon those who are involved in education here in all kinds of ways. We are grateful for that, and we pray you will help us as we strive side by side to bring about the glory of Christ in our context. Amen.